Okay, so the replacement of the front fork seals on a Yamaha XJR1300. It's the first time I performed this task on this bike. I looked on the net. I found many videos of people who had changed their seals on various other bikes. The closest to mine was the FJR1300. So it's very similar, but not identical. So there are a couple of differences. So I thought I would make this video and explain exactly what I did. The notes contained within this video are my notes on how I performed this task. I didn't use any specialist tools, and I guess the time I took was approximately 6 to 8 hours. Okay, so I hope you find this information useful. If you do have a XJR 1300 or something very similar. Okay. So I thought it would be a good idea to name some of the components of the disassembled fork assembly. Top left-hand side, there is the tube. On the right, there is the slider. On the left-hand side, attached to the slider, is a yellow tapered component. And then we have the lower metal bush. To the right, the upper metal bush, followed by a metal washer, and then the oil seal. Bottom left-hand side is the damper rod assembly with the bolt attached to it on the left-hand side, which attaches this to the tube on the top left-hand side at the bottom. Following to the right, we have the spring, the main spring. Onto the right of that, there is a white plastic spacer. To the right of that is a metallic spring guide, and then to the right there is a nut which attaches to assembly on the right hand side. So this is a more detailed look on these components. So the tube and the bottom here with the hole is where the damper rod assembly is fixed at the bottom with the nut. And then on the top is the accommodation area for the metal washer oil seal, and that groove, the recessed groove there, is for the spring clip. Next we move on to the slider. At the bottom is the tapered spindle, the yellow tapered spindle, the lower metal bush, and the upper metal bush, metal washer, and the oil seal. This is just a look inside. Like most surfaces, especially the internal one, just avoid any scratches or any damage at all. Moving on to the actual head of the assembly. That O-ring needs to be replaced. That's the spring guide, the white plastic spacer, and the main spring, and This here is the damper rod assembly, and there's basically the rod there, the actual rod, and an inner core. The rod basically is adjusted at the top there for the preload, and the inner core um, adjusts for the rebound. And those four holes are where the damper rod assembly holder tool is placed, so you can undo that nut on the other end, which is at the bottom of the tube. Sometimes you don't need it, um, but later on I'll show you a DIY holder tool I produced. So that spring slides down and makes contact with that cup with the four holes, and then the spacer fits into there, and then followed by the spring guide and the nut and the top assembly. That's it. So one of the last tasks to do in the reassembly procedure is to attach the head nut assembly there on the top onto the threaded push rod below. So that just screws all the way down clockwise, bring up the bottom nut, and then with two spanners you tighten the whole assembly with the bottom nut and the blue nut at the top, which is a nut that's used for the preload. And once that's done, then you can just push down and screw that head assembly onto the slider. Following now are procedures for the assembly of both of the front forks, the installation of the front forks onto the bike, and some checks and some notes. Okay, just been out for a ride. All okay. Hope this video has provided useful information for you, and good luck should you be doing this task yourself.